Hey folks, how you doing? It is now Monday, the 12th or something like that of May. My goodness, 2025, and that means that we have a new weekly time frame on Bitcoin and altcoins and all that. And if you look at what happened yesterday, a lot of assets did pretty much what I said is that they ranged and ended up having a nice, fairly tight setup for the new central daily ranges. Some of them got a little bit wider, some of them got a lot tighter. For example, Bitcoin's central daily range today is just 0.01% of the asset's value. So it is really tight, and that means it is most probably a trending day. And that trending day has been tested. The new central weekly range of the VRE has not been tested. It is well below where the central daily range is at the moment, and it's fairly wide at around, like, I think 3.22%, something like that, of the asset's value. So we might have a ranging week, but if you look at the intersects on the weekly time frame, you'll notice last week we had, like I mentioned, that intersect that actually hit. Yesterday when I made the video, I forgot if it hit last week or it was about to hit. It hit last week, so there you go. And it was also within the 0 to 4 candle time frame of the previous intersect. So we've been having a lot of relatively nice moves, and obviously we had a relatively last move last week, and now we're in the candles 1, 2, 3, and 4, right, for this week, next week, week after that, and week after that, which means we could definitely still have very nice moves within now the next 0 to 3 candles, meaning this candle or 3 more after, on the weekly time frame. It could yet again happen, up, down, or sideways, right? It can happen in both directions. When I say a relatively nice move for the weekly, I mean look at the overall movement of the range that it does for the week, not just the one direction, with the open and close, right? Look at the overall range of movement that it makes during the week. And you'll see probably this week we'll have very nice movement. Maybe this week, maybe next week, week after, who knows? We had it last week, so in theory, yes, you could say, well, it was already made the nice move. Now all it has to do is mean revert to the 30-12 RMLR on the 4-hour, and then just chill for the next 3 months and freak everybody out, sitting somewhere between 100 and 105K. Hey, listen, it could happen. But yeah, it certainly could. Is it probable? Not so much. Same thing with Solana. Look at what Solana did yesterday, right? Kind of had similar vibes, winding up for a nice new weekly maneuver. We also saw that across some meme coins, saw that across Litecoin, saw that across Ethereum and XRP and ADA. Basically, everything just took the weekend to reset things for this week, and there's still a lot of 4-hour time frame mean reversions in progress, with the RMLRs currently below where the assets are. Now, the good thing is, because those mean reversions did not complete yet, good thing, well, depends how you look at it. Personally, I like when prices go down, but the assets did not complete the mean reversions to their 4-hour time frames RMLRs yet, so those 30-12s, which means that those RMLRs have been rising, right, continuously towards where the asset currently is, meaning the difference now, the delta between where the asset is and where the RMLR is much narrower now than it was even yesterday or the day before, right? And certainly much narrower than where it was on Friday, right? So that means that yes, we could still have some very nice, juicy moves to the downside. They don't necessarily need to be as big as what they might have been if these moves had happened just a day or two ago. Now, that doesn't mean that they're still not going to be juicy. They'll still be very juicy. There's still some nice multiple percentage moves available across different assets to complete those mean reversions if they complete to the downside. Or maybe they just drag themselves out and tease everybody Monday and maybe Tuesday or Wednesday they finally complete. Or maybe they do a bit of a fake out, and just when you think they're going to complete, the assets will rise up and stay above the RMLRs as those RMLRs continue to rise on Tuesday and Wednesday, and it'll take some more time to complete, which certainly could happen. Which is why we always look at those RMLRs as moving targets, because they are, right? The RMLR is a moving target, and the outer bands are moving targets, and that helps us adjust to figure out which direction it's going and where we should take profit, right? At the RMLR or at the outer band, like before it hits it again. So that is what's happening with those assets. And at the moment, the market is basically set up for a pretty hit week. Now, does that mean it's necessarily going to be a crazy week? Well, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a crazy week. Some markets have better bark than bite. Dry bark. Some markets are rock steady, and some markets are the paved path, and some markets are the grassy ravine or the green crops growing on the other side. Now, the question about which market we're in now always depends on your perspective, your time horizon, your position size, and all that. The way I look at it, at the moment, we do have these layers, right? At the bottom, you have this kind of green, swampy grass where the primordial soup still lurks. Above it, on the slope, you can see the different layers with some other grasses and flowers. Above that, the drier grasses that have already been grown and dried out by the sun. And then above that, and behind it, are the rows and rows of these well planted and grown harvest crops. And if you know what these are, tell me in the comments. They do keep growing. Do you think they're corn? Do you? Do you think there's something else? Maybe I'll tell you what they are at some point. Maybe I already know. Anyway, be interested in knowing if any of the people watching this know what those are. Given here, can you tell if I zoom in? Can you tell what those things are? No? No? Do I raise my hand a little? No? Can you tell? Is it easy? I wonder. Anyway, hopefully you can tell. But if not, that's okay. So, in any case, the Bitcoin markets are set right now, and our crypto markets are set to really have quite a week, to be honest. Should be fireworks. Again, it could be ranging a lot during the week, but the days could be quite nice. Like today, we have very probably a trending day on Bitcoin, given that the CDR has been tested and is very tight. Right? Other assets, CDR is not so tight, but they could still have trending days. as long as they're tight enough, and also more importantly, if they're tied to any of the big gorillas, right? Like if they're assets that are pegged to Ethereum or Bitcoin, then there's a very high probability, even though they'll have their own unique movements, they will probably do something similar overall, especially if they're both, since they're if they're also in mean reversion on the 4 hour, and if they're also fairly wound up compared to yesterday and the week, the past week, ready for another movement, especially if they also had an intersect on the weekly time frame, which a lot of assets did, by the way, um, or on any time frame, right? So it's you know it's not like the assets are all robotically intertwined, and I mean, they are, but it's not like they're intertwined to the level where if Litecoin pumps, it automatically means Bitcoin's going to pump, which automatically means Doge is going to pump and all that. I mean, yes, there is a propensity for those things to happen, and the reason is very simply that those assets typically are bought in large quantities and are sold in large quantities by HFT bots, or big huge algos that run the markets and buy significant quantities and sell significant quantities, right? And that's what runs the market. So they're not buying just Bitcoin or just Litecoin or just Solana or just Doge or just Cardano or whatever. No, they're buying like hundreds, if not thousands, of different assets, right? And you got to keep in mind, there's like 15 million cryptos, right? At this point, literally, like 15. If you look at CoinMarketCap, there's 15 million cryptos. It's a bit insane. Now, I'm all for it because I think it's great to have competition. And I've been saying for more than 10 years, you're going to see a time when literally every kid sets up his own token. And we're getting there. You're literally seeing kids setting up their own tokens over nothing, just to have their own token between their friends, among their, and it's not just kids, like adults have been into collectible tokens for whatever reason, right, for quite a while. Some of the neatest things that you can do these days are get tokens of collectible items. It could be an NFT collection of some kind that has like, a particular kind of art that you might like, that there might be some fans of. Let's say they grow a community and they buy, these NFTs, and no, NFTs are not dead. And people that say that they are really don't understand what NFTs are capable of, and don't understand that we've barely scratched the surface of what they can do, and they're not just going to go away. But yeah, there's some people who think they're just passe, and the same thing with ordinals, right? Just because they were kind of having a bit of buzz a few years ago doesn't mean that they're no longer a thing. No, they're still very much a thing, right? Where do you think meme tokens came from? Meme coins. That's from that whole concept, right? It's just like, anyway, like Doge is a meme coin, right? Which is obviously older than NFTs. It's all from the same culture of wanting to have more use cases for this stuff. Like, but Doge was created as a meme, right, of Bitcoin. That's why it exists. You know, is it possible that we'll see Doge pump to a dollar sometime in the coming months? Anything's possible, but is it is it realistic to think that? Well, look at the VEPs, look at the probabilities. That'll tell you, where those probabilities lie, right? It would have to like 4x or something from where it's at now to get to like $1. If it doesn't do that, then it's not gonna. And And what are the probabilities that it will? Well, again, look at the probabilities. Look at the distribution model probabilities, right? Look at the forecast of the RMLR. Like, what's it telling you is the likely direction over the coming weeks and months? Right? That's why we use those tools. At least you have a smidgen of an idea, right, of leading information telling you where things are likely to go, versus just using lagging information and therefore not having a clue where things are going to go, because you're always finding out after the fact. So anyway, that's going to do it for now, folks. Have a good one. Happy trading. Peace.